So, okay, I guess we'll start. We are taping this because we thought it would be a communications tool that we could put out on the internet for people that couldn't attend. So, just by way of welcome to, oh, hi, Ellie. Welcome to Village Hall. I'm Roberta Sonnenfeld, I'm the village manager. I just wanted to provide a short backdrop about this meeting and why we called this forum. I think clearly water is a big issue and a big topic of discussion nationally, statewide, internationally, so I think this is timely. I don't think there's a day that goes by, and maybe exaggerating a little bit, that there's not some story in the newspaper about water, lead found in a school, et cetera. So we also listened to residents' feedback, and I know that there have been some questions and concerns over the last year or so that I've heard. And so we thought this would be a good event to hold. So several months ago, we were asked to speak in Glen Rock, this team, and the interaction with the citizens as well, the residents as well as the council was really terrific. There was lots of knowledge imparted. The dialogue was rich and civil, very civil. And actually, my immediate reaction that evening, I think I turned around to Rich and I said, we should really do this for Ridgewood residents as well. So that's where this thought was born from. During the recent 2016 budget review, and I would encourage people, if they're interested, to take a look. It's online. We put all of our meetings online. All our budget reviews are online. We've referred to this year as the year of water. And the thought was, or our feeling is, and the council agrees, that we should really be focusing on water, on Ridgewood water, on the people, process, technology, infrastructure investment, et cetera. So we have really dubbed this the year of water. You'll be hearing some of this tonight. We'll be talking to a little bit on the investment side. But the most important reason to have you here is for you to ask us questions as well. So there is nothing off the table at all to discuss. Welcome. Have a seat. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to the water professionals. Rich Calby, who's a relatively new director of water. I think he's been here about 9 months, and he's about over his honeymoon period with us. And Dave Schreibner, who's been here
31 years.
31 years. He's the business manager. And Jose Martinez, who's the superintendent of water treatment, who's been here
18 months.
18 months. So there's a relatively new team, plus an experienced team in place. And they're going to share with you how the water gets from our aquifers to your faucets. And again, I emphasize there is no topic that we will not discuss. So whatever questions you may have, whether it's related to lead or PFOAs or any of that, bring it to us or we'll respond. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rich.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me fine? Great. Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming out to participate in this forum. As Roberta mentioned, it is the year in water, but for us, every year is the year in water. When you have to serve 61,000 residents with safe drinking water, every day counts. So every year is just as important as this year for us. A little bit in regard to tonight's format, just to go through what we're going to do. We're going to start with a brief presentation that was prepared as part of this year's budget presentation. We felt it was important for you to see this because it gives a snapshot of Ridgewood Water system and operations. The presentation touches on the utility's history, our budget, our capital plan, our rates, and our goals. It'll show you how water is delivered to your home. And we title it otherwise as Ridgewood Water 101. So it's an introduction course. There will be a test at the end.
That was a joke.
Right. We will then summarize the presentation and current issues, and then open up the floor for your questions, and we're here to answer any question you have. If we do run out of time, but I don't think we will with this small group, we could certainly stay afterwards and answer any follow-up questions as well. But before we start and we kick off the presentation, let me just say a few things to kind of set the stage. As you know, water is in the headlines across the whole nation and the whole world. Whether it's about contamination in Flint, Michigan, drought out west in California, or unsafe drinking water in foreign lands, or news of lead right here in Ridgewood, citizens around the world are becoming more aware of this commodity and its vital worth. As a matter of fact, Ridgewood Water was the first topic of discussion at last week's League of Women Voters Candidates Night. It's that important that all 6 candidates had a big focus on Ridgewood Water. The industry is undergoing a transformation, with managers like myself having to deal with aging equipment and systems, water scarcity, consumer overuse, and social pressures. Balancing operational costs and capital costs with expansive regulation is the challenge today. Ridgewood Water is posed for these challenges. We have developed an operating budget that maintains one of the lowest rates in our area while balancing a $41 million capital plan that will complete itself in 6 years on the centennial anniversary of the utility. Bearing no major catastrophe, pollution effect, or unfunded mandate, Ridgewood Water will continue to serve its 61,000 customers for another 100 years. Before I start the presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mr. Scheibner. As he mentioned, he's been here for 31 years. He's been involved with almost every aspect of the utility, working his way up from meter reading to creating the utility's GIS, working on utility construction projects, and creating our customer service and billing branches, and now managing and promoting our business. He will take us down the journey of this utility, which operates at $16.5 million per year, with only 32 employees that generate 2.8 billion gallons of water a year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Beautiful. Good evening, and thank you all for coming. Washing our hands, filling the coffee maker, or taking a shower, most of us reach for the faucet knowing that water will flow consistently and reliably. So much so that we seldom give it a second thought. You may be aware that the primary source here is groundwater from wells. But do you know how the water gets from the wells to your tap? And what happens to it along the way? What facilities and equipment are needed? What kind of organization supports the operation and maintenance of this utility? This evening, we are going to share with you what is happening in the background: treatment, distribution, and administration to make sure that the water is always available in sufficient quality and quantity for the needs of our residents, businesses, and fire departments. Ridgewood Water System consists of 51 properties, 56 structures housing a control center, a distribution center, 9 storage tanks, equipment and inventory storage, 10 transfer stations and booster stations, 11 air stripping treatment facilities, 52 wells, 1,872 fire hydrants, 2 controlled interconnections with Suez, and 1 with the Hawthorne Water Department. There are also 5,700 distribution system valves, 20,000 service connections, and about 275 miles of water mains. If you think it looks complicated, you're right. Ridgewood Water is uniquely complex in its configuration, operation and maintenance, and administration. The utility is divided into 5 hydraulically independent zones in order to maintain reasonable water pressures for the end users. Transfer pumping stations are strategically located to allow the movement of water between these zones when it is operationally useful. The 52 wells are scattered throughout the service territory. Most of the wells have treatment equipment on site and deliver their treated output directly into the network of mains called the distribution system. Treatment includes the injection of liquid phosphates for corrosion control and liquid chlorine for disinfection. Some wells require an air stripping process to remove volatile contaminants. In a few locations, the output of several wells is routed to a larger treatment facility where the combined water is treated and then pumped into the distribution system. Consequently, there are a total of 31 locations where water that is ready for consumption enters into the distribution system. Many other water systems that have a single source, such as a reservoir, only need to have one large treatment plant and one point of entry into the distribution system. Ridgewood's decentralized system has some advantages and some disadvantages. The principal advantages are equipment, parts, and supplies for pumping and treatment tend to be smaller in scale and easier to handle and repair than those at a large plant. The criticality of facilities is less problematic. If one facility is offline for any reason, say a pump needs to be serviced or there's a local power outage, the loss of water supply has a smaller impact on the system as a whole. The principal disadvantages of our decentralized system are the operation of the system is more complex because there are many more components to monitor, control, and balance. Maintenance of the equipment requires more labor. Not only are there many more components to be maintained, but the facilities are distributed over a 17 square mile service territory. Chemical supplies that require special handling need to be delivered to multiple widely distributed locations. And sampling and testing required by regulation at water sources and points of entry are consequently greatly increased. Ridgewood Water has 52 wells and 31 points of entry that require sampling and testing, whereas a system with a single reservoir and a large treatment plant would only have to conduct sampling and testing for those 2 locations. Administrative complexity is a legacy of the utility's growth and development. Ridgewood Water started as a privately owned utility called Bergen Aqueduct in 1900 with a 15-year franchise to operate a water supply system in the village of Ridgewood. Service was expanded into Glen Rock in 1903. The owners of this system established a second water system called Bergen Water Company in neighboring Midland Park and eventually connected the systems together. The village of Ridgewood purchased the combined systems in 1921. Growth was steady through the 1920s and the 1930s, expanding into southeast portions of the township of Wyckoff in 1933. In the post-war boom of the late 1940s and 1950s, the service area expanded again into a second franchise area in Wyckoff in 1947 and the remainder of Wyckoff in 1955. Service connections increased by a factor of 2.5, and the number of wells in production doubled to cope with the ever-increasing demand for water in the 4 municipalities served. Throughout this expansion, and to this day, Ridgewood Water has remained a department of the village of Ridgewood. All customers, regardless of which town they are located in, pay the same rates and receive the same level of customer care. Water services provided to any governmental unit, including Ridgewood, schools, libraries, municipal facilities, county facilities, and post offices are billed and paid for just like any other customer. Services provided by the village of Ridgewood to the utility are covered by budgeted allocations of water utility income to the various Village of Ridgewood departments that provide this support. All water utility expenses are paid with revenues from water services.
Sorry, Dave.
No Village of Ridgewood tax revenues are used for Ridgewood water expenses. The operation of the water utility is organized in 3 divisions: treatment, distribution, and administration. The treatment division is responsible for the operation of wells, pumps, treatment facilities, tanks, booster stations, transfer stations, interconnections, and other equipment used to deliver potable water to the distribution system. It is also responsible for maintaining these facilities and the buildings and property where they are located. In 2016, expenses for this division included electricity for pumping, purchase of bulk water from Suez and Hawthorne, chemicals for treatment, equipment maintenance, laboratory supplies and services, maintenance of buildings and grounds, and heat. You can see that energy is the largest expense for this division, and it is second only to employee compensation for the entire utility. I got ahead of myself with my slides here. The distribution division is responsible for the maintenance of the distribution system of water mains, valves, hydrants, and service connections. Distribution staff repair water mains and breaks and inspect system valves and hydrants on a periodic basis to ensure that they are functioning properly. The distribution division crews assist the treatment division with pipework and other heavy operations when needed. The 2016 expenses for this division include materials and supplies for repair work, repaving of trenches, traffic control, and contract maintenance. The administration division is responsible for the oversight of the enterprise, including planning, budgeting, bids, and RFPs for goods and services. It is also responsible for customer service, meter repair, meter service, billing, and collections. The 2016 expenses specifically for this division include billing and lockbox services, credit card and electronic check processing fees, and customer communications. Enterprise expenses include employee compensation for all divisions, telephone services, regulatory permits, fees and fines, property taxes, software maintenance, legal costs, and allocations to other Village of Ridgewood departments. Our management team is excited that we are beginning a 6-year, $41 million capital plan in 2016. Some of the projects that we will be implementing include distribution system renewal and upgrades. These are pipes, hydrants, and valves, tank and reservoir rehabilitation and construction, well and treatment rehabilitation and improvement, interconnection improvements, backup power upgrades, transfer and booster station rehabilitation, technology and security improvements, equipment and vehicles, and facility improvements. These capital projects are funded using reserves and bonding. The operating expenses of the utility are funded with revenues from various services and fees, but the majority of, as you can see, the majority of our income for the utility comes from water rents. Breaking the rents down further, the dark orange piece there is facilities fees. The large blue area is basic consumption, and the pie slice at the upper left is seasonal consumption. In 2015, this amounted to 16% of our revenues, the water used for irrigation. In 2015 was a dry summer, and demand for water to irrigate lawns was strong. 2014 was also a strong year for seasonal revenues. The long-term trend is for the base consumption to gradually decrease as fixtures and appliances are replaced with more efficient models. The seasonal consumption, on the other hand, is gradually increasing as more homeowners install automatic irrigation systems. We are currently studying increasing block rate models that encourage conservation. Here's a comparison of rates in the water utilities that border the Ridgewood Water Service territory. You will notice that only Mahwah has a lower starting rate than Ridgewood. It's easy to forget how vital the water supply utility is to our daily lives because of the dependability we're accustomed to. When you turn on the faucet or the shower or the washer, the water is there. When the fire department needs to connect to a fire hydrant, the water is there. When Valley Hospital cleans a surgery suite, the water is there. Operating a water supply utility never stops for the night, never stops for the weekend, or for holidays or vacations. Our health, safety, and economic well-being depend on it 24/7, 365. The Ridgewood Water team is committed to achieving our goals of financial stability at a lower cost to consumers than most area water supply utilities, proactivity in system maintenance and regulatory compliance, transparency in relations with regulators, governance, and the public, and building consumer confidence in the utility. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Yes.
So, no, that was a little quick.
Yeah, we're going
Yeah,
to take questions in a minute.
Yeah, we're going to get there real quick.
Yeah.
Just in regard to the presentation, it was a real quick overview. If you want to see the whole detailed presentation that we gave to the council back on January 20th, you can go online, and there's a fully recorded version. I think the water section in the budget was about an hour and a half. So it goes into great detail in our presentation and also questions that were received from the council, mayor and council at that time. It's a good resource to find more information. And as Roberta mentioned earlier, we will be providing a tape of this session and the morning session that we had last week as well online. So you could take a look at that and see some of the other questions that were asked. Typically at this point, what we would do is start the Q&A, but I'm just going to kind of, again, set the stage, because I think a lot of what everybody's here to talk about are some of the things that I want to give a little summary of. Maybe it might answer your questions, maybe it may lead to some new questions, which I hope. I just want to start the discussion. But to really get it going, I want by a show of hands, anybody that's been a resident for more than 40 years, if you could raise your hand. Great. Odds are that the water you're drinking today is drastically different than what it was 40 years ago, and I'm going to tell you why. 40 years ago, the water wasn't even treated with chlorine. It wasn't even stripped of volatile organic compounds. It wasn't treated for corrosion to control lead. It was strictly water from the ground, or in the cases of other places around the world, it was from a reservoir just flowing into the pipes to people's faucets. But today, because of the nature of society and where we are with contamination and the results of the way we use water, we now have to provide much more treatment. As a result, the taste and sometimes the smell of the water is different, and I'm going to tell you why. We treat Ridgewood water in 3 different ways. All the water gets treated with disinfection. Like all systems, disinfection is provided to prevent pathogens and bacteria from entering the water. The chlorine that we utilize in the system is a sodium hypochlorite, which is the same as your household bleach, except we use it at a different concentration. We have to maintain a residual of that chlorine high enough in the system so that when it goes out into the system and reaches the furthest point, or our last customer, that there's enough to protect that customer from bacteria or pathogens. Therefore, the closer you live to a well, odds are the more chlorine that you're seeing, and I don't want to say seeing, but smelling or tasting in your water. But we have no way around that. And as recently, because of new requirements from the Environmental Protection Agency, we have to even increase the level of chlorine that we put in certain wells due to their proximity to streams, because there's the possibility that bacteria and pathogens could be introduced into the groundwater from surface water. They call it groundwater under the direct influence of a surface water body. We have 5 wells that have had indications of fecal contamination in the raw water, not the treated water, and as a result, we have to maintain a higher dosage of treatment at those wells. It's called a 4-log treatment, and it's effective at removing 99.99% of any bacteria or pathogen, such as E. coli. So we have to take those precautions. As a result, the water is changed in its characteristics. Secondly, in any place where we have a volatile organic compound, these are contaminants that come from old gas stations, dry cleaner facilities where contaminants made their way into the ground. We strip that water of those volatile organic compounds. We literally pump that water through a large aluminum tower filled with little balls that look like wiffle balls, and pump air in there to strip those compounds out into the air. As an effect of that, the water's pH changes, and that affects the corrosivity of the water, and again, probably the taste of the water. And lastly, as a result of that corrosivity, we have the effect at your homes that if you have any lead fixtures or pipes, they can corrode the lead off of them and into the water. So to eliminate that hazard, we've been introducing into the water a corrosion control element, a polyorthophosphate. It's a food-grade chemical that we've been putting in the water. It started as a pilot project about 2 years ago, mainly in the Midland Park area, but it's now been expanded to the entire system, and it's being introduced into every well throughout the system, and will continue to protect you at the point of use in your home. What this corrosion control inhibitor does, it coats the piping and the fixtures to prevent the breaking off of that lead and into the water and leaching out into your water as you flush it from the faucet. But as a precaution, what we want everybody to do, even though we're providing this protection, always run your water. Always run it for at least 30 seconds, run it till it's ice cold. And you should always be doing that forever. Even when we get past the point of the effectiveness of any treatment, if you're away from the home, you wake up in the morning, always flush the water, because the water is just stagnant sitting in your pipes. The water in our system is moving. Even at night, we're filling tanks that are depleted, we're shutting wells off here, turning other ones on, but when it's in your home, it's literally sitting in those pipes. And at that point, it's open to what's ever in those pipes, possibly cross-contamination in older homes because it's hooked up near your hot water heater. You may have an outside spigot for your hose that may not have the means of protecting anything from coming back into the system. So protect yourself by always flushing the water. Make sure it gets cold at least 30 seconds. Moving forward, and what we're looking for to protect you even more, every 3 years, the Environmental Protection Agency requires us to look at unregulated contaminants. So besides every bit of what we test the water for on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis, the EPA devises a list of 30 new contaminants that they want to keep on their radar in terms of what may need to be treated for in the future. We do the sampling, we provide them the data, and they evaluate it from all the systems in the United States to determine if there's any new hazard or potential for new treatment that may be needed to treat those hazards. As a result, we've been looking at 3 in particular. Some have been in the headlines recently. The 3 compounds, and excuse me if I get these words wrong, they're very long. The first one is abbreviated as PFOA. It's a perfluorooctanoic acid. The second is PFOS, which is perfluorooctanosulfuric acid. Those first 2 are similar products. I don't know if you're familiar with Teflon. It was in cookware. It was applied to fabrics, rugs, as a retardant, as a stain removal system, stain prevention system. It's on water repellent clothing. So it's in a lot of stuff, but and because of that, it's found its way into our groundwater. So as a result, we're keeping our eye on that. And if the levels do get to a point, and if the EPA enacts it as a regulated contaminant, we will have to treat for that as well. The fortunate thing on that end is that the known treatment is a carbon filter. The unfortunate part is that will be very expensive, but that will provide a means of filtering a lot of things additionally out of the water that may come down the road in the future as other contaminants. The last one in the news lately is 1,4-dioxin. Again, if I say these wrong. This is another contaminant, the result of manufacturing. It's a solvent that was used as a stabilizer in paper goods, cotton, textiles, coolant in your cars, So just imagine when there's a coolant leak in the street, where does it go? Into the drain and into a river. So it found its way into the groundwater. It's in cosmetics and shampoos as well. So everything we use on a daily basis finds its way into the water. So a lot of what we've been doing lately is talking to people like yourselves, as well as engaging the other 3 communities we serve, because we want people to start conserving water, but also to pay attention to what they put on their lawns, what they do when they wash their cars, how they dispose of their garbage and recycling, because eventually everything finds its way into the water that we drink every day. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and allow you to speak. Just going to kind of lay a couple of ground rules. It's a small group, which is going to be great because we do have another hour and a half. We're not going to have any time limit, but just be respectful of knowing that everybody else probably wants to ask a question as well. But if you can come up to the podium, just give us your name and address, and we're happy to answer any questions you have. If you don't mind, please.
Hi, my name is Cindy Moranti. I live at 376 Carriage Lane in Wyckoff. So my question becomes, with the new chemicals that you're looking into, are your standards, your highest level of standards, what the EPA is putting upon you, or is there other research being done by you to come to understand the effects of these things in our water? Currently, I have a reverse osmosis at my house. It's only in my kitchen and my bathroom for drinking and in the refrigerator, but we shower in our water, and as a biology major and understanding that the water affects us in so many other ways besides drinking, that's the only thing that they say is affordable for a homeowner at the moment, even though I'm researching other things. So is your safety standard directed to you by the EPA, and is that the highest level of standard that you're going to follow? Because I don't necessarily have full confidence in the EPA as my end line.
Sure. Right now, we don't have any standard, which is part.
And thank you for coming here and doing this
No,
tonight.
and thank you. Great question. The unfortunate part and what we're struggling with is there's no standard. We would love to be able to start planning for what we need to do to treat for any of these unregulated contaminants, but without knowing, and it's going to come from EPA, and then eventually the state itself, the Department of Environmental Protection New Jersey, could create their own more stringent standard. They can't go less than EPA, but they could go higher. So if the EPA comes out and says that this PFOA can't be no more than 4 parts per billion, the New Jersey State Department of Environmental Protection could say, that's not good enough for our residents in New Jersey. We want it to be at 2. We would have to treat to that standard. So without having that number now, it's hard for us to take that step forward. It is something we're thinking about, though. And on the one slide that Dave showed up there, had to do with wells and treatment. And I don't know if you saw one of the bullets was treatment alternatives. So we do have money in the capital budget to start studying different alternatives for treatment. And in the case of those contaminants, a granulated activated carbon treatment is one of the ones that's being tested currently. The Township of Fairlawn has a pilot project going on right now that the state funded, and they're going to compare those results and see how effective that is. And that may be the basis for what everybody does. But in regards to what you're doing in your home, reverse osmosis is probably one of the better options. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but it's literally trying to take water and run it through a piece of cellophane. So you can imagine the size of the holes the water has to get through. That cellophane's capturing everything. So it's a very effective process at removing contaminants. If you were to do a test between both ends of it.
Do you know if it's effective for PFOAs or not?
I think it's one of the ones listed. I'm not 100% positive. You should be able to look up the manufacturer, and they'll give you a whole list.
I did. The company that put it in said that's new information, and they're doing a lot of research on it. They do not say yes, definitely, but they do with lead.
Okay.
They did say the lead will be filtered out.
Because the 2 options we know of to treat it are granulated activated carbon and reverse osmosis. But again, the effectiveness and to what level they drop it to, we don't know, and that's part of the pilot project in Fairlawn. And it's very in-depth because it's not just, in their case, it's not just the vessel and carbon. It's what type of carbon you put in there, how much carbon, what's the life of that carbon, and then you saw how complex our system is. If you change the flow of water through that vessel, then that affects the carbon and how it activates and works as well. So we have a lot of things we need to look at in terms of the effectiveness of that, but it's on our radar. If you don't mind, if you could come up, please, that way everybody could
Hear you.
hear.
My name is Paul Ranke, 226 Brookside Avenue, Ridgewood. Am I reading you correctly that what you are emphasizing is maybe the best solution for immediate solution is to have a carbon filter for the whole house, you know, one of those large ones that Home Depot sells, for example, and then have reverse osmosis for the source of use? And I fully agree with the other speaker about, you know, our skin is our biggest organ, and unfortunately we absorb lead through the skin. And it can be measured through chelation process, by the way. So there's factual evidence that there is lead in human bodies. It causes cancer. And whatever the EPA, whoever says, you know, I have full trust in the EPA, but I think we have to go a bit faster than that. So would you be so kind to advise us on some systems? I know you're not promoting anything. You're not supposed to sell anything. I'm fully aware of that. But still, some ideas about basic principles in terms of design specs for entire house filtering, as well as source filtering, you know, for drinking water.
We do have resources, good question. We do have resources on our website that can direct you to information on filtration systems. Any system that you buy, whether it's a whole house system to the low-grade countertop filtering system, you know, where you literally pour the water in through a filter. You want to buy a system that's NSF approved, National Safety Foundation, if I'm saying that correctly. National Science Foundation, yes. Thank you. They test all these systems to determine if they're effective per the marketing literature that the company has. So you want to make sure anything you buy has that label. We can't recommend any system. We can provide information, which we do provide as part of our, I think, our lead information that's on the website, and even in the documentation we send out every year as part of that process. A question was asked on Thursday morning relative to this, and the other part of it too was, is the water safe to drink? And if not, what should we do at our home? And, you know, understanding your perspective and the young lady's perspective as well about the effects on your skin and body as well. We're providing you water that is safe. It meets standards. But again, those are standards prescribed by the federal and state government. When the federal government and state government prescribe those standards, even with the new standards that are going to come down from these unregulated contaminants, they're evaluating not just health, science, they're evaluating economics. And then ultimately the Congress and President of the United States have to approve and bring any of those regulations down. You know, but unfortunately we have to follow that. We are going to look further than that and spend some money to find what alternatives we have, but then we as well have to kind of weigh what the ultimate long-term costs are going to be for that. But for the moment, what I would say to anybody, if you want to be cautionary and you're wary about the quality beyond us providing the safe product, get a filter. We're not going to stop you from doing that. You know, if it makes you feel better, get a filter, and even the simplest carbon filter will remove chlorine. If you don't like the taste of the chlorine or smell chlorine in your water, a simple carbon filter will remove that. And you could get any of these as a whole house filter right after our meter, or at the point where you take the water for drinking at your refrigerator or kitchen faucet. You know, so you do have those options. You know, again, we want to be as clear and as transparent as possible. Yes, it's a follow-up.
This is actually not a follow-on question. It's another question about, do we have any records of lead piping in the street system? And if so, are they made public?
I'll let Dave answer that question.
Yes, we have records of service line materials. We don't have them for every location, but we have them for the majority of locations. There's a resource sheet available on the table in the back that has a telephone number you can call that goes to our information specialist and GIS specialist, and he can look up the information for you. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
If you have lead in the street, what can you do? You can't change it. I mean,
Well, the lead is either your service line or the fixtures inside your house. Our water distribution system isn't made of lead.
Anybody else?
Is it worthwhile to have it tested?
Yes, you can pick up a testing bottle from our office. It's independent test. You take the sample yourself. It comes with instructions, and you deal directly with the lab on the test. We've negotiated a low fee with them at $25. You know, and they'll send you the results. We've had a lot of residents in all 4 communities participate in that so far. And the good news is the majority of the results we've seen are non-detectable. You know, there's a few out there here and there, but they're below the 15 part per million action limit. You know, billion, sorry, I always get those confused. What I didn't say about the whole lead issue earlier, in 2012, we had an exceedance. We had to look at 60 homes per year was part of our lead monitoring program. These 60 homes were the worst case homes in our system. They were known to have lead services. Out of those 60, we found that more than 10% exceeded the federal action limit of 15 parts per billion. As a result, we needed to take action. We started public education, and we started examining implementation of the corrosion control system that we now have in effect in the entire system. Since 2012, those 60 homes have continued to provide us samples on an annual basis. Not all of them, you know, some people haven't cooperated, but for the most part, the ones that we've gotten back have shown those numbers trending down significantly. Now, as part of us finishing installation of this system, we're now going to start on July 1st, 2 6-month rounds of official monitoring that will be submitted to the state and will be released to the public. We will not be releasing any of the data since 2012. You know, if you notice, every time we send you a document every year, it still has the 2012 data because we can't release the data since then. It's not official. And at the same time, we don't want to remove any caution that the public is taking. We want you to continue to flush, take precautions until we know that effectively this is working. So over the 2 6-month periods, we're going to monitor 100 homes. And again, worst case homes. They're homes that are known to have lead service lines. And we're going to then have that information and release it to the public.
Are those homes taking corrective action?
The homes were notified in 2012, Dave?
Yes, every homeowner that was involved in the program knows that they are part of the program because they have a lead service line. Many lead service lines have been replaced, but the number of them in our system is actually quite small.
So many of these 60 homes corrected the situation with new piping.
Well, if they choose to do that, then they're no longer part of our sample pool.
Yes.
If you just change the book, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
if-
the mic would be better because we're taping this and it would be, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan Burns, Ridgewood. If you just change the service line, though, you may still have piping that's led throughout the entire home. My-
Or faucets.
Right, so that would be a tremendous thing.
Even if you have copper piping, the solder joints on the piping may contain lead, depending on the year that they were put in.
So this whole idea of the corrosion control is to,
Yeah.
you know, make sure that that doesn't leach into the water.
Do you recommend changing the service line?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, if you have a lead service, yes.
yeah, okay.
The best way to avoid lead is not to have it.
What does that usually cost, average?
The cost of a lead service, of a service line replacement, it varies a lot depending on the circumstances, the length of the line, but, and, you know, if there's any obstructions in the way, it can be as little as, you know, $1,500 and as much as $5,000.
please.
Eric Largan, Ridgewood. So just to follow up on the study, so it sounds like in about a year, you'll have the results and the data?
We start July 1st. The first 6-month period is through the second half of this year, and then the second one goes from January till July. So we'll have the first 6-month period, I'd imagine, released before the end of the year.
Okay.
And if that shows complete effectiveness and compliance, we're actually even allowed to stop the mailings and the public education, but we're going to still continue to be involved with the public at that point and making sure people are taking precautions. Yes.
Okay. And then I'm wondering, what's the lead in water level at the wells level versus the
Zero.
upcharge? Zero, okay.
Yes.
So it's the lead piping, it's the distribution system?
Yes, the raw water's been tested, and we're actually going to be installing 4 distribution sampling points, one in at least each of the 4 towns, to get further assurances, because the question always comes up, what's the lead level in the distribution system? Even though we don't have lead piping, we want to hold true to the fact that our water coming to your house doesn't have lead. So we'll have that data as well in the future.
Andrew Keesing, Bryden Place in Ridgewood. Ridgewood has a reputation for having very hard water. Is that due to the fact that the water is coming from wells, or is there some other reason for it? And is there anything that can be done to reduce that without being prohibitively expensive?
It is because it's groundwater, and it's because we are in a bedrock aquifer. So all of our water is coming into the wells via fractures in the bedrock. It's the Brunswick shale aquifer, so it's fractured rock. As a result of the corrosion control, that's going to provide some bit of softening, but you can get a water softener as your best resource to prevent that in your home, because the hardness will affect your fixtures over time. It helps get the shampoo and soap off quicker. If you go to softer water, you might be in the shower longer. So there's the pros and cons to it. But that's your effective treatment there, to get a water softener. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
Are we getting water from the Hackensack River and Hawthorne? It's not well water?
The Hawthorne water is groundwater, so it's the same aquifer that we're drawing from. And we do buy water from Suez, which used to be United Water, which is reservoir sourced water. We do, because of the amount of usage in the summer. That's why we're going around to the other towns and we're trying to promote conservation, because in the peak months, June, July, our water usage triples. We go from a day like a week ago where we're using about 5 million gallons a day to about 15. I could just tell you last week with the sunny, hot days we had, we went from 5 to almost 9 just in a day's time, because everybody turned on their irrigation. So we're forced into buying at those points in time.
And my name's Mary Crevy, Morningside Road here in Ridgewood. And that actually was my question. I feel like I have been here 30 years, and I believe that probably at least for 28 of them, there have been water restrictions. And the recent water restrictions do not have anything to do with the weather. They start June 1st. And I don't get that. I mean, I think water restrictions should be related to weather, not to the calendar. I'm afraid we don't have enough water for what people want to use water for.
I mean, the question on the weather part is if we wait to the point that the weather is having an effect, it's often too late. I think part of the thinking and enacting on an annual basis starting June 1st through August 31st to go the odd and even was to get ahead of that July peak, no matter what the weather may be. And we're finding that that's not even effective. And a lot of it is a compliance enforcement issue, because a lot of people don't even adhere to it. So part of what we set out to do, and we started this about 2 months ago, we've been sitting down with a group of stakeholders from all 4 municipalities, And the biggest topic is finding new ways to conserve, possibly changing the ordinance and rules, but at the same time finding ways to better educate the public. There's a lot of new resources out there and means to irrigate your lawn. There's a lot of new smart technology that will only water the lawn when it needs the water, based on weather, based on soil moisture. It won't run the sprinklers when it's raining out. You won't believe how many sprinklers we see are running when it's raining out, how many sprinklers sprinkle the sidewalk. So there's a lot to be done in that respect. And, we had this kickoff meeting, and believe it or not, one of the 4 municipalities is kind of taking it at a whole different speed than everybody else. Our hope was to kind of do it all together, but the borough of Glen Rock has kind of taken the lead, and they're actually have introduced an ordinance already that they're going to limit watering to 2 days a week. And they're going to do it year-round, but at the same time, they're going to allow people that have smart controls to be able to water at any time. Those people will be able to register. They'll have a placard on their home or on their lawn that's saying it's a smart controller, and they'll be able to water at any time because it's proven that those type of devices are smart enough to only give the lawn the water that it needs. And then the 2 days will apply to any other system. And the state was actually the organization that created the model ordinance for this. They've put it out, and slowly municipalities are adopting it. We're looking to do something similar, but we don't want to move as fast because we could enact any ordinance that we want to, but without educating the public and getting out in front of it and make sure we have the proper people to support it and enforce it, it's going to mean nothing. So our goal is to kind of take one step at a time. We're probably going to work off of what they're doing because they're launching into it. I think they're going a little too fast, but we'll use that as our kind of pilot in a way. But it's certainly one of the biggest issues besides the contaminants that's on our daily radar, because we don't want to go on restrictions every year, but we're forced to, because you kind of saw in the brief presentation, our system's spread out and complex. These 50 wells we have put out very small amounts of water. So in that summer peak, like last year, where it didn't rain for months, we got to July where people continually used 15 million gallons a day. We couldn't keep our 15 million gallons of storage in our tanks. We couldn't keep it filled. So in the event that there was a catastrophic fire, say it was Nabisco on Route 208 or Valley Hospital, we wouldn't even have the water to fight that fire. So as a result, we had no other option but to move to the stages that we have. But what we're looking forward to is investing that $41 million in that system, because these wells, some of them are over 100 years old. So we need to take them offline and rehabilitate them to get them back to what they were 100 years ago. We may have a well that 100 years ago put out 1,000 gallons per minute. Today, maybe it's only putting out 600 as a result of its age. We need to get into that well. We need to clean it. We need to maybe drill another one next to it. So that's where we're investing the money. And while we do all that work, we're unfortunately going to have to buy some water to make up for that. But our ultimate goal was to get our system back to the way it used to be, so that we could avoid those restrictions and provide you with more of our water from the ground. That's where the money's going and the long-term plan. That's part of that whole proactivity goal that we have up there.
I just wanted to add, smart controllers are for irrigation systems are great, but if you don't have one, I have a low-tech rain gauge here. I know it looks like something else, but it's actually a rain gauge. This is how much water, you fill this up, that's how much water your lawn needs in a week. If it's partially filled by the rain, you only have to water as much additional to fill that up. So the rule of thumb is a ½ inch twice a week.
That comes from grass,
Scott's
turf. Great questions.
Yep. Any other Any other questions?
Pamela Perrin, I live at Kenilworth Road. What do you mean by flush the system for 30 seconds? Every time you fill a glass with water, or just when you wake up in the morning? Will the toilet flushing be enough?
No, toilet flushing will not be enough. You need to do it from the faucet that you get your drinking water from, and you only need to do it after that long period of stagnation. Typically in the morning, or if you're away from the home all day, maybe when you come back from work, but certainly not with every glass of water. If you wanted to take that precaution, you could, but you only need to do it after that long period of stagnation. And flushing other devices in your home, whether it's the bathroom sink, or toilet, I think it needs to be your kitchen faucet, the one that's driving the most pressure and flow.
Not each faucet?
Yeah, if you're going to go in the bathroom, brush your teeth, flush that faucet before you use it, certainly. Yeah.
I was also wondering, what is the status of that lawsuit that was brought by residents in other towns?
We can't give any details. I could only give you as much as that was in the paper the other day. There's a June hearing date set. We're hopeful that it will be resolved during that trial and that we could move on at that point. Oh, thank you.
But that lawsuit was not based on quality of water. It was really based on allocation methodology of expenses. So it was not a quality issue. Anybody
Anyone
else?
All right.
Angela Brenna, I live on the east side. We've been talking all night about Ridgewood water. I believe I was told in writing by you guys that living on the east side, we get most of the water, especially in summer, from Suez and not from Ridgewood. What do we know about Suez results?
The test results for Suez are part of the annual report that we mail to all of our residents. The annual report.
Sorry, that you mail to whom?
All of the residents.
The annual consumer confidence report that's sent out to everybody. It has a page of the Suez results in it. There are copies back on the table there. Yes.
Thank you. And what exactly is the situation with Suez for people that live on the east side? I don't quite understand. Somebody gave me an answer last year. It wasn't really clear.
We have two interconnections with Suez. The one is over on just off of Van Emberg Avenue. Right. The other one is out in Wyckoff near the Franklin Lakes border. The one in Wyckoff is used for 10 months out of the year. The interconnection on Van Emberg